This is a video that you don't want to miss because it exposes the marking or the assessment criteria for ISLPR test. Okay, so if you have missed all videos from me, this one you should not miss. The International Second Language Proficiency Rating Test uses a particular criteria which provide a detailed and authentic measure of candidates' English language proficiency. And this is why I love this test, because it assesses you in ways that no other test is going to assess you. It's professional, based on your professional background, based on your academic background, and the questions are set specifically to suit your situation. So this kind of test, it comes with a particular way of assessing you, and I'm going to expose that in this test. And to start with, let's start with speaking. What is it that the examiner looks for when they're assessing you in the speaking section of the test? Number one, fluency and clarity. Fluency and clarity. Fluency forms the foundation for effective communication. Examiners assess whether speech flows in a natural way or you are having a lot of breaks, having to recollect and having to think. Okay, so if you have not reached a point where you can be fluent, there is a way you can improve your fluency in English. What can you do to improve your fluency? To improve your fluency, speak consistently and at a pace which is normal. Don't be too fast, don't be too slow. Speak consistently and speak balance between speed and your ideas. Okay? Make sure your ideas are connected. You are using clear phrases, clear sentences, clear clauses. And that's how you are going to impress your examiner. Secondly, punctuation. Clear punctuation includes accurate word stress, natural rhythm, smooth connections between words, and impressive intonation. So when you are speaking, you are in the test. Do not show that you are pausing when you are not supposed to pause, stopping when you are not supposed to stop. For example, if you say things like, I was going to the what? I was going to the market when I met Musonda. Full stop. Having met him on the middle of the road, I decided just to wave him and assured him that I would talk to him later. You see, you are speaking and pausing at the right place. That way you become clear and your examiner will be impressed. Number 3, under speaking. Use of words, vocabulary, and accuracy. How accurate are the words that you are going to use? And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, because they think when you are in front of the examiner, you are there to impress the examiner with very big words. Use simple words in an effective way, in a professional way. Do not use big words which the examiner won't understand, or which you do not know how to use. Now, let me give you a very funny story. You know, words condolences and congratulations, they start the same, CON. And I didn't know when to use which one. Or maybe I did know, but I used the wrong one in class when I was, I think, in year 10 in my country. So do not use words that you are not sure of their usage. Another mistake that you can make using words that you don't know is when you are not sure whether a word goes with, let's say, interested in something, right? You know that we always say interested in something. You cannot say, I am interested to study at the University of Melbourne. I am interested to. That's the wrong usage. So if you are not sure interested goes with in, say something else. You can say, I prefer studying at the University of Melbourne to going to Darwin University or something like that. Because again, you need to know that prefer goes with to, interest goes with in. Know how to use words like that. So use words that you use daily and use them well. Grammar and range of accuracy. Again, now there's a book on my website. I'll put it in the link. It's called Grammar Companion. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to that book. I cover everything that you need to know, from word classes to sentences and advanced structures. I've written that for you, and I think it's just about $5. Yeah, $5 Australian. So go to that. It's going to help you master vocabulary. It's very important. Examiners value complex structures, including conditional sentences, passive constructions, and relative. So you need to mix. However, I know these sound like conditional sentences. Conditional sentences are just sentences like, if you go to school, you will learn, you know? Unless you go to school, you will not learn. When you know how to use those sentences, and they are there in the ebook that I talked about, you will be impressing the examiner. So grammar range, use of sentence, simple sentences, grammatically correct sentences. And that book I talked about will help you. I think just check the link. It will take you to that ebook. Then another thing you need to know is trying to copy native speakers. You see the way I speak, I've got Zambian accent. Do not fake to try to speak like you are a native English speaker. That is a no, 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 no. Examiners evaluate whether your language use mimics that of a competent native speaker, of course. Now, this will include the use of discourse markers such as well, actually, and right. However, do not fake accents. Do not fake accents to sound like you are an Australian. So when we talk about speaking like native speakers, we are talking about the way they use language in the actual sense of words, actual sense of fillers, actual sense of appropriate discourse markers. Okay? But do not fake an accent, because once you fake, the examiner, you are faking something here. These expressions that you're going to use, let them be natural to you. And sentences that you're going to construct, let them be natural. So that's the speaking part. Let's move on to the listening part. Number one, ability to comprehend what you heard. Okay? Comprehension ability. Your ability to understand spoken English depends on a certain number of things. Number one, speed, the speed at which the audio will play. Number two, register and familiarity with various accents. Okay? So how familiar are you to various accents? Because you don't know who is going to speak in that audio. And that person could be typical Oz accent or formal Oz accents. But in most cases anyway, they are going to bring you speakers using language formally, or at least close to formal, things that you can understand. This test is formal, therefore formal English is appropriate. So your understanding of that audio will depend on the ability to listen, to the speed, the register. The register in this case just simply means if you are being in education, and if you are in education and they use words like curriculum, words like pedagogy, words like inclusive education, if you are coming from the background of education, you know what those mean, right? So if they bring an audio which has got those words, do you understand them? Do you understand what they mean? Now, In my mentorship program on my website, I have put a list of words for each listening situation that you need to know. And it's very important that you visit that and see how that mentorship program can help you. Okay. So in order to prepare for the listening part, make sure you listen to a wide range of accents, especially native Australian accents. Speak to as many people as you can. Listen to radio programs, listen to podcasts and interviews, television, and you practice summarizing points in note form. Okay? So, which brings me to another point. You need to practice note taking. You need to practice note taking, how to take notes when an audio is playing. Oh, I should say how to practice. You need to practice. Um, yeah, not taking actually, not making, but not taking. Okay. Another strategy that you can use for the listening test is understanding words and general meanings. Okay. Do not be very specific and do not want to understand a word in its very specific context, but sorry, in its very specific meaning, but use the context to understand what it could mean. And context could involve core text. What are the words surrounding that words? What are words coming before it and what words are coming after it? That is context, but the general topic is also the context of that word. It can help you. Let me give an example. If someone says, nowadays, inclusive education has been embraced by so many educators. This is because it helps teachers to differentiate their teaching methods to suit every child. Oh my God, I've used two terms here, differentiation, which is also a term that we use in education, and inclusive education. If you didn't understand what inclusive education in this sense, the word, the second sentence where I talk about differentiating methods to meet each child, you know that I'm talking about inclusive education because I am making sure that each child is included in the way I am teaching because I'm using different methods that suit each child. Okay, so use the context. Number three, and listening, memory. Yeah, you need to sharpen your memory to remember things, because when the person in the audio, when people in the audio begin speaking, they will not wait for you. They'll just speak until up to the end, and the audio will not be repeated. So the audio will not be played twice. The audio will be played once. So memory here will help you to remember some of the things that will be talked about. So since most listening tasks are played only once in any other test, including IELTS, strong short memory is very important. You need to develop, and actually you can start chewing onions. They are very important for that. So I hear. I've not tried, but try to do it because you're going to write the test. Practice recalling sequences and instructions from the recording and try to find as many recordings as you can. Again, you can do that just by going to ABC website. They've got podcasts. You can listen to those podcasts and you can also try to take notes and play them again to see if you were correct. Okay, you can do that, but you can also go to my mentorship program. In the listening section, I've put some audios which you can listen to, and I've asked questions where I want you to answer, and then I can evaluate that to see if you are listening correctly. Okay? Still under listening, the last one is recognizing discourse markers. Now, discourse markers are very important. Now, if you don't know what discourse markers are, these are words that mark how the text is written and how the reader or how the listener, if it's an audio, should move. Words like in addition, words like therefore, words like in conclusion, words like firstly, secondly, all these are discourse markers. Others will show contrast when they say away from this, when they say in contrast, when they say in a different way, you see that this is contrast. So markers such as firstly, in contrast, however, and finally guide the listener through the structure of the speech. Listen to these to see how the speaker is moving either from um, one point to another or bringing in a different idea through the use of contrast. Okay? Recognizing these signals or these phrases is very important because it's going to show you how the audio is structured. Let's move on and look at the assessment criteria for reading. Speed and general understanding. Again, reading, speed and general understanding. You'll be given a passage to read, and you need to read at a pace that is acceptable, that is normal. Now, for me, what happened was I was given a text to read aloud to the examiner. This is very important. When you read, do not read too fast and don't be too slow, and especially don't stop where you're not supposed to stop. Very important. Look at punctuation marks. Look at punctuation marks. So ISLPR reading tasks often will have time limits. It's important that you read efficiently, you skim the text before in order to get key ideas and scan for specific information and write notes. Okay, make sure you write notes. Practice by reading short professional academic documents in under 1 minute and summarizing their purpose. You need to do that. Focus on capturing meaning, okay, quickly without becoming stuck on every word. Like I said, there will be so many words that you might have never met in your life, but use context, and I've been explaining this. Secondly, you'll be tested on vocabulary, how much you understand. So a strong reading vocabulary includes academic language, professional terminologies, and idiomatic expressions, and you need to know how to do this. The only way you can understand these words is to expose yourself to these words. And again, that mentorship program that I've been talking about, I think is a good program to help you know most of the words that are used in educational circles. Sorry, not academic circles, but educational circles. Use discourse markers just like in listening. As you read, see how discourse markers are used. Let's move on and talk about the writing assessment. The assessment criteria for writing ISLPR test. Okay. Firstly, you'll be testing on task completion. If you are given a letter to write, completion doesn't mean reaching the end. Or let me just say, it doesn't just mean reaching the end. It also means answering all the parts of the question. If you are given to write a letter, have you included an address, your address? Have you included the receiver's address if it's a formal letter? Have you included a salutation, the name that the letter is going to, the subject, the introduction, the body, the conclusion, the greetings, the signature, and the name at the end? Have you included all those? So task completion is very important. A complete written response addresses every part of the prompt. For example, if the task is to propose a new school policy, make sure you describe the rationale, the steps for implementation, and expected outcomes. Use instructions to check whether you have answered or responded to all the aspects of the question. It's very, very important. Another way you'll be assessed in the writing test is idea development. How have you developed your idea? Have you followed through the process? And now, this doesn't mean that you should know everything, but at least in your writing, the idea must be clear and it must come up in the way that it should. Okay? Vocabulary and grammar. How are you using sentences? I think this is one area, or this is one aspect that comes through in all the four skills, macro skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Vocabulary and grammar. How are you using words? How are you using sentences? That is very important. I think there's a remedy for this on my website. There is a small ebook, Grammar Companion. It's very important that you look at that ebook because it's going to help you improve in your grammar. It's got a lot of examples. It's got a lot of topics that it covers. And then punctuation and spelling, because you are writing. Remember when you talked about pausing, where you need to pause in terms of punctuation. In this case, punctuation is a reality because you are not just pausing, you are writing and you are indicating where the comma is supposed to be, where the full stop is supposed to be, where a capital letter is supposed to be. Again, I think there is a very, very good article on my website. I'm going to link it in the description, which you can use about punctuation. It's got, I think, most popular or the most common punctuation marks and examples are given and when you can use them, when you cannot use them. And then the use of appropriate register. You are a teacher. You are given to write a letter or you are writing an essay about the use of technology in school. I'm sure you are expected to use some of the words that you use in education. For example, pedagogy. For example, differentiation. For example, curriculum, syllabus. Use some of those words intentionally and appropriately to fit in the subject. The examiner will see if you are using language according to your profession, okay? Then linking words and cohesion. Use linking words. Build cohesion. Cohesion is just how sentences and words are connected or paragraphs are connected to make a coherent text. Okay? So cohesion and coherence. Cohesion, internal connectedness, physical connectedness, how you connect using markers or signals that we already talked about, words like in addition, firstly, secondly, however, in contrast, all those words, how you use them to connect your passage is cohesion. Then coherence is the logic that it forms after you use those linking words. Expression. Try to express yourself the way a native speaker would express themselves in writing. But make sure, again, you don't sound informal because most speakers, to be honest, they use English informally unless maybe in offices or places like that. But even at my office where I work, oh my God, there's so much informal English. There's so much informal English. So you need to remember that you are writing a test and use formal English. Let me conclude by making a call to you. If this lesson was what you needed to hear today, please subscribe, like, and share. If you need help, there are two resources that I've mentioned. There is a grammar ebook on my website. I'll put the link in the description. There is also a mentorship program on my website. Please check it out. Let me know if you've got any questions. I think that is going to help you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you are assessed in your ISLPR exam. And you can find this information on their website. It's very important that you understand some of these things. Thank you so much for joining me in this lesson. I hope to see you in the next one. But before you go, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell so that when a new lesson comes in, you'll be notified. Thank you so much for your patience and thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.